The following video contains disturbing content, including themes of child exploitation, self-harm, and psychological abuse. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This story is based on real events and has been carefully researched. While details have been presented with discretion and sensitivity, some scenes may be emotionally triggering. This content is intended for educational and awareness purposes only. In the stillness of suburbia, behind the closed doors of bedrooms lit by the pale glow of screens, a war was brewing. Not one of guns or armies, but manipulation, violence, and control. Parents tucked their children in, believing they were safe in their homes. But a predator was already inside, not through a broken window, but through Wi-Fi. It started as a whisper in the dark, a message on Discord, a compliment from a stranger on Roblox. The kind of interaction no one thinks twice about until it's too late. At the center of it all was a name few had ever heard until it was too late. 764. By the time federal agents fully understood what 764 was, the damage was done. Thousands of children, some as young as 9, had already been reached, groomed, controlled, destroyed. And behind this global digital cult stood a boy from the United States. His name was Bradley Cadenhead. Just a teenager when he founded 764, he would go on to become one of the most dangerous online predators ever prosecuted in U.S. history. The group called itself 764, a number that sounded like a code or maybe a prank. But inside certain online spaces, it stood for something much darker. It was a flag for those who craved destruction, pain, and chaos. To law enforcement, 764 would come to represent a violent online network that seeks to destroy civilized society through corruption and exploitation of vulnerable populations. In the words of the U.S. Department of Justice, their methods were as calculated as they were cruel. Members of 764 scoured the internet for vulnerable children, girls struggling with mental illness, loneliness, or trauma. They didn't break down doors. They broke minds. They used tactics rooted in psychological warfare, fake affection, manipulation, fear, and absolute control. Victims were told they were loved, that they were special, before being asked to perform horrific acts, sending explicit content, self-harming, carving symbols into their skin, even hurting family members or pets. To the outside world, it looked like a typical teen online. To the victim, it felt like being trapped in a horror movie they couldn't wake up from. One girl, a 17-year-old from Connecticut, thought she'd found a boyfriend on Roblox. He told her she was beautiful, that no one had ever understood him like she did. It felt real. She felt wanted. The messages moved to Discord. Then came the requests. A photo, a video, a promise of secrecy. Then things changed. The man she loved asked her to carve 764 into a Barbie doll. Then he asked for a note, written in her own blood, calling him a god. She obeyed. She was told she was part of something important, sacred, revolutionary. Soon she was helping to send threats to schools in 2023 and 2024. She had been transformed, not just a victim, but a weapon. When she hesitated, her family was swatted. An anonymous tip reported a fake hostage situation at their home. SWAT stormed in with rifles drawn. It was punishment, a warning. She was later arrested and charged in juvenile court. Authorities still consider her a victim, but by then, she was too deep. She had crossed over. As federal agents unraveled the structure of 764, the extent of its reach became horrifyingly clear. The FBI had more than 250 open cases connected to the group. Every one of its 55 field offices had at least one, and that was just in the United States. The victims were global. The predators were young, tech-savvy, and operating under a belief system that combined Satanism, neo-Nazism, and glorification of mass violence. Some members idolized the Columbine shooters. Others exchanged videos of torture, mutilation, and suicides to desensitize new recruits. 764 wasn't just a predator ring. It was a cult. Its members believed they were dismantling the world, one broken child at a time. And at the heart of it all was Bradley Cadenhead. To neighbors, Cadenhead seemed like any awkward, quiet teen. But online, he was something else entirely. A god, a cult leader, the architect of a system built to weaponize suffering. From behind a keyboard, he created a hierarchy of digital handlers. Young men like Leonidas Veragianis and Praise Nepal, who helped execute his vision. They didn't just collect content. They recruited, trained, spread the doctrine of 764 into every corner of the internet where vulnerable teens might be found. He provided scripts, techniques, make her feel loved to the point she does not want to lose you. One guide read, "That's when you start requesting the work. Start with blood signs." This was not chaotic cruelty. It was a system. The FBI called it one of the most organized and methodical child exploitation groups they'd ever seen. But it wasn't until agents traced Cadenhead's activity across dozens of encrypted platforms and burner accounts that they realized they were looking at the founder. The arrest made headlines. A teenage American boy had built a global online predator cult from his room. But it was a sentencing that stunned the country. 80 years in federal prison. Cadenhead showed no remorse. In court, prosecutors presented hours of chat logs, videos, and testimony from victims and their families. The courtroom heard about children who had cut themselves on camera, about families who were stalked and terrorized, about girls who had tried to take their own lives because of 764. The judge didn't hesitate. "You created a machine of pain," he said. "You programmed cruelty, and you knew exactly what you were doing." Bradley Cadenhead was led away in shackles. The room was silent, but 764 wasn't dead. Despite Cadenhead's arrest and the capture of lieutenants like Veragianis and Nepal, law enforcement confirmed what many feared. The group still exists. The digital cult had taken on a life of its own, decentralized, resilient, and still active among teenagers worldwide. Even now, new recruits emerge, taking up the mantle, spreading the gospel of pain in new servers and encrypted chats. Some victims still believe they're in love. Some don't even know they're being manipulated. And for parents, the warnings have never been more urgent. The FBI urges families to monitor changes in behavior. Mood swings, secret of online activity, strange injuries, fear, or emotional withdrawal. Some kids begin covering up in summer to hide self-harm. Others start hurting their pets. Most parents never imagine these are signs of an online predator, but they often are. Detectives warn that platforms like Roblox and Discord, despite safeguards, remain hunting grounds for predators looking for emotionally vulnerable teens. "These guys aren't hacking into systems," said FBI Assistant Director David Scott. "They're hacking into children's lives." What makes 764 uniquely horrifying isn't just the abuse, it's how it spreads. It turns victims into perpetrators, converts, tools. Some teens are convinced to manipulate others. Others are radicalized, embracing 764's twisted ideology of Satanism, violence, and chaos. What starts as a message becomes a movement. A girl might be coerced into sending photos, then into hurting herself, then into threatening her school. By the time anyone notices, she may have already been lost or weaponized. And because the group thrives on anonymity, even its members don't always know who's in charge. That's part of what made Cadenhead's prosecution so difficult. The system he created was designed to survive without him. To this day, no one fully understands how deep 764 goes. Some servers are still online, operating under new names. Investigators believe hundreds of members remain active, and thousands of teenagers may have already been exposed or manipulated. And yet, the group leaves almost no fingerprints. The messages vanish. The images are traded across the dark web. The pain remains, long after the accounts are deleted. Bradley Cadenhead is behind bars now. He will die in prison. But his legacy, his cult, still breathes online. There is no single leader anymore. No headquarters. Just a number, a symbol, a virus. 764. And for families across the world, it's no longer enough to tell kids not to talk to strangers. The strangers are already inside the house, in their apps, their games, their inboxes, sometimes whispering love, sometimes demanding blood, and sometimes calling themselves God.